What's good? What's going on, my skin post? Welcome to the channel. Welcome. Let's get into it. Nothing is ever without temptation. Life on this earth, life on this planet, nothing is ever without temptation. We understand that the basic construct of good and evil, right and wrong. We got that going on. We know what the right thing to do. We know when it comes to, let's say, if somebody says, "Can you hold some money for me? I'll come and get it back next week." We know the right thing to do is just to hold it and not use it. Basic premise, right? Basic principle. We know that if when you're a child, your parents tell you, "Oh, you know, we've left some food on the table. Don't touch it. It's for the visitors." Especially being an African person, you know better than to touch the food. So but nothing in those two examples I just gave is without temptation. Now, we get tempted differently. When I look at men, the temptations that most men have, they include alcohol, some guys drugs, as far as, small time drugs or weed, or some people it's heavy drugs. Some men is gambling, you know. Some men is womanizing. So these are the temptations that one can find themselves in, can give into that. Now we don't give trophies, but we give props to the people that navigate around these things and survive and be a grown adult person, and get their own, really, because these are the temptations that are real, especially with the pressures of life or pressures of work, to avoid all these things and then be somebody. Okay, even just eating unhealthy food, that's another temptation. Now, for men to arise above all that. So when a man is above all of that, is above addiction, is above, porn, even, is above all that. He's an outstanding person, even if he is not recognized on a societal level for what work he's doing. He's an outstanding person because he's shown himself to navigate around these things and avoid these things. But the temptation was there nonetheless. Now, there's certain consequences to behavior. Like an example is, let's say I start gambling and then I stop, I recover, I'm good. If you meet me at age 40 or 42, like the age I am, whether I was used to gamble at 21 to 25, it has no consequences, no bearing. Okay? The temptation was there, I overcame. Same thing with alcohol. Now, the unfortunate thing is the temptation that's there for women has long-term consequences. Because right now the temptation is this thing, this concept called the whole phase, where you're supposed to just hold yourself around. Now, unfortunately for women, men value a woman who has less encounters. It's never a good look for a man to pull up with his woman in hand, and everybody in that room knows they've been with your woman. It's never something that men want that, especially if most people date in the same city that they live in. It's never a thing. It's never attractive. So no woman can convince you that how past don't matter, because if the past, and these days the past is in the DMs still. The past is still on the social media platform, just ready for there to fall back on. So unfortunately, when women are tempted with that whole face, and it seems like it's just normative these days, gore trips, whole phase, because we can forgive a girl that used to smoke and then she quit. We can forgive alcoholism. Let's say she also got into gambling. We can forgive that. But what happens is, the problem with the whole face as a temptation, it's almost like the greatest crime a woman could commit to herself, because it's going to affect her future. Because she is not going to want to sit down. If she's used to being outside, she doesn't want to sit down because everything feels less than. It feels boring. So the girl that has not succumbed to the whole phase, she has not succumbed to extreme promiscuity. We're not talking about virginity here. The one who's not succumbed to extreme promiscuity has a better chance, and who sees herself in light of a wife at the early stages. Because I think a lot of women tend to think that the wife switch just comes on, but oftentimes they try to get married out of desperation, not because of the genuine desire to be a wife. They just try to get married at age usually 30 plus, you know. But the one that sees herself as, and because I used to have a friend, I used to manage a restaurant at one point in my life, and there was a 23-year-old with 3 children. Now, some people would say, "Oh, she's young," but she wanted that, and she literally wanted that. I was impressed because back in the day, I was younger. I was just blown away that that was the case. But the point is that those women who have identified that they value who they are, you can give into certain temptations and they are forgiven, but certain temptations have a long term uh, side effect. Now, of course, people get married regardless of their past, people, but and strippers and so forth. But it doesn't give you the choices that you would desire, that you want to have. And you may even have outcomes of abortions and unwanted children. So, my point in this message is that nothing is without temptation. There's certain temptation we succumb to as men and women that we can, we can get out of and still be good again. But just like a man, let's say, who slept around and has many children everywhere, he may be on child support everywhere. Now he's got permanent consequences to his behavior. So certain temptations we give into. Unfortunately, people will say, "Oh, I made a mistake. I was young." But certain things we don't get the grace that we want because the person will just look at you and says, "Hey, I can't believe you've been on like all those guys," because guys will talk at some point. And it's embarrassing to be with a woman who has a promiscuous past. Men were proudful like that. It's weird because men value that so much and women fight against that so much, which is making a big disconnect because women want to sleep around like the way they think men had access to, but the majority of men did not have access to sex the way women have it like that. A woman can get on Tinder today and get it laid today. She can have multiple 5 dates set up today. Open an account today, 5 dates set up, and have access to have men have access to her like that. It's not so with men. With men, so women have given over into that temptation in the name of freedom, or they feel like they want to see how far they can take it, and that's gonna have consequences. And now they want to shame men for them succumbing to that temptation of something that's not forgivable. Just like a man, let's say if you went out there and impregnated that, well, if to a woman a deal breaker is you having multiple babies, then you cannot force that woman to take you on accept you based on you have something that's handicapped as far as she's concerned. So unfortunately for women, they're not thinking clearly. They're trying to believe that they can just shame men into accepting that. Yes, of course, some men will accept. There's a lot of people there. Some people don't got no standards, but we must be aware that there's certain temptations that we shouldn't succumb into because we have to forego that. We have to have the strength. And those that master that strength to overcome that will have better options. They have to pick up the litter, so to speak. If I did not go impregnating everybody, and then I worked on myself, I did not give in to alcoholism or drugs, I'll be a better candidate for most people. You see? I'll be a good candidate for most people. I'll have better options, travel options, because I'm not restricted based on whatever is burdening me to whatever location. So now women, I think, they've succumbed to this hookup culture that is to their detriment, that temptation, and this has consequences. Because all temptations have consequences. There are certain things we can make mistakes as young people and get out unscathed, or at least say, I'm delivered, and so to speak. But certain temptations we should not give into. And older women should teach younger women to not give into certain temptations, especially the whole being ran on trains and just that promiscuous lifestyle. I'm posting it because if you want to be a future somebody to anybody of value, no man of value of substance is gonna want to be around that, and especially in the era of social media where your exes are never really exes, they're always present, and most women are still accessible. uh, Go ahead, like, subscribe, and share, get the word out. Peace, love, and blessings.